One thing I wanted to bring, and I'm going to switch over so you can see my screen now. Okay, and we're not going to do a real lot today because, again, the videos for this lesson are, the tutorials aren't that long. The mechanics aren't that big a deal, okay? But there's a lot to know about what's going on. And so the lesson videos are long, okay? Plus, I give a lot of extra stuff because we are at that point in the class now where a lot of you are really learning the subject. And I want to give you the ability to know all, even those little tiny tidbits that could help you, you know. I want to make sure those get inserted here. So you're going to have those kind of streamed throughout these 3 videos that we have for lesson 7. But before we go to there, I wanted to show you, you're seeing my screen now, right, Aziz?
Yes.
Okay. I want to bring up the project you just did, okay? And go to the assembly. Now, this is the compiled version that I gave you, okay? So I'm in assembly, and one of the instructions I gave you was make sure you put a default value on shipping cost, production cost, and other costs of 0, okay? Why did I do that? Well, it turns out, and if you listen over here, and Aziz and I talked before the class started, when you have an expression in the derived field, if any element, any part of that expression evaluates to null, the whole expression will evaluate to null. So we were adding up shipping costs, production costs, and other costs, and we get this total cost here, okay? When there's 0 in there, it's got a value, okay? But let's say I come in here and I remove this 3 from this one. Watch what happens. There's nothing in the total cost now, all right? Now, on a form, maybe that's not a big deal, all right? But believe it or not, on a report, that wouldn't just be blank. That would say error on it. Okay, and so one of the things we have to often do when we think we could have a null value in an expression is to test those things that could be null, to say if this value is null, then make it 0. Otherwise, use it. Okay, that doesn't sound like much, but you know, we got 1, 2, 3 of these we'd have to do it on now. Then we also discovered that even after doing that, sometimes it doesn't evaluate it as null. It evaluates it as an error. So we actually had to have a compound rule that says if it's null, make it 0. If it's an error, make it 0. If it's so now I had 6 if statements in that expression in order to make that happen. Okay. It could get really hairy fast, okay? So that's why I've come to the conclusion that one of the things I try to do when I create reports, if I have to give somebody an aggregate report where I may aggregate on a field that isn't required, then I try not to even use that record. You know, when I make my query, I try to take out any records that could have null in that field and not include them, all right? Now, depending on what you're reporting on, that you may want that, you may not want it, okay? But just know that that is a situation, and it does happen. And boy, when first time it ever happened to me, I was like, "What the heck?" You know. And then I realized, yeah, because null is not a number. It's not 0, okay? And it can't be equated as 0 unless you tell it access somehow that it needs to be a 0. So just watch out for that, okay? I know as you go in your projects and you start doing your own derived fields, especially derived fields that are in, derived controls, I should say. Derived controls that are in reports, that could happen. Derived fields that are in queries, it could happen, it turns out, okay? On queries, I think what would happen is it would just come back blank. But if you use that query in a report, it could evaluate as an error, all right? So be careful, all right? That's worth knowing. All right, so the other thing I wanted to show you, and when you watch the video for L07-01, where I give you an introduction to the whole subject of application, that's why I'm not going to do that tonight, okay? Because I think the video does a really good job of that, okay? I want you to watch it, all right? But in there and I'm going to bring this up here so you can see it, okay? I'm going to open up the work file for the tutorial 07-01. Because I want to show you really quick first the data model that I'm talking about to set this up for what's going on. And again, I do cover this in the video. So by the way, I noticed something just a little while ago. When you open up this the relationship window for this, it's missing two of them. Do show all, and it'll put, there was actually a auxiliary table in here, and it had a lookup associated with it that isn't showing. Just say show all and you'll see it. Then you'll see it though here. You'll see the table and it's stuff over in here. So anyway, we have, this is what we're doing is we're setting up basically a store, okay? And at this store, I have customers who place orders, okay? And orders have products in it, okay? So we have between customer orders and supplier products a many-to-many. But the customer order itself is a supplemental table to a customer table. In other words, a customer could have many orders. The supplier product table is a supplemental table to a supplier. A supplier can have many products. So we've got a customer who can have many orders that could have many products from different suppliers, basically. Boy, you haven't seen one of those before, right? Basically, we have a three-level relationship here between customers and the products that they purchase, and between suppliers and the products that are purchased from them. So this is kind of interesting. How do we, it's easy to model, actually. You can see it right here. Two supplementals that come together as a junction table. Pretty straightforward, all right? But how would you take care of this in managing the data? Well, it turns out there's different possibilities here, okay? And I show you that in this particular application. This application, this is basically a full-fledged database application, all right? Everything we have studied this semester, well, practically everything we studied this semester is in here somewhere. I don't think I have a reference relationship in here. Otherwise, everything else that we studied a lot is in here. And I've also given you some other things that we haven't studied, just so you could, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing in here that you shouldn't be able to figure out yourself. Okay, you have the background now to go into things and figure out what's going on and how it was done, just from examining its properties and things like the queries behind them and all that. You should be able to do that now. All right, I want to go out and run this. Let me just, yeah, it doesn't matter because I'm going to run the compiled version of it. And by the way, you'll see this is very colorful, but I did that for a reason, so you guys can go out and explore the different color combinations on this and all that. You don't have to do this yourself, obviously. Okay, I wouldn't anyway. But we have products in here, so I could open up products. And you see the products, and the products have, again, I do all this in the video, so I'm not going to do it here, but I'm just showing you there's products. And in here, I've got things that are kind of unusual, like the products have a product number, which is the primary key field. Remember, I've told you, primary key means nothing unless you want it to. Okay, you see it all the time when you order magazines. You get a customer number. Guess what? That's a primary key field, value. Okay, we're going to derive ours from that auto number field. Okay, and I gave it just basically a format here to do this. I did that actually on the second project on the customer table. Contacts table. I did there was a contact ID, and it was set up the same way that this is, and you see them in here too. This is something that brings together, it's a join that brings together the supplier and the product and the product number and the supplier of that product and their number. Okay, that's all. You're getting the source code for all this. Okay, you can go back there and look at how that row source was set up for that fine record to do these things. I got this little thing that tells me whether or not this product is available or discontinued. So I go through here, and if it's okay, keeps that, otherwise turns to that. You can figure that out, I'm sure. All right, there's macros here, and that's the last subject we're going to study for access is macros. but the macros are all very, very simple, and you'll be able to figure out the events that those are used on just by looking at the property list of the objects that of what you're exploring. Suppliers, here's suppliers, and here you got the suppliers and A products. But here's something interesting. We're used to opening up supplemental tables that are multi-valued. This is one where it's single valued, just like the master is, okay? Because there was so many fields in here that I wanted to actually use a control tab here too. So this control tab is, it's like you embedded a subject form inside a subject form. And kind of really, that's what I did, you know? So I come in here and you can see it's got all its stuff in here. This is about the product itself related to that supplier. And I could go through navigate through the different records for the child, and I could navigate through the records for the master. Then you see how things change, okay? And there's contacts, same thing with the contacts. You know, I had a lot of information about the contacts, and I decided I'm going to put that in something like this rather than have a lot of rows to go through. And that's kind of neat too, because now I got two different ways to search too. I can search, think about this as an embedded search. This is looking at this one, and this is looking at the master record, the search for the master record. Pretty neat. You might tell too, I got a button here. Yeah, well, when I got a new supplier, I just click on that and it takes me to a new record for the supplier. And I did that in a few places. You could just copy mine over into yours and make it work for yours, or you could actually generate this with a wizard. But where I really want to go here is on customers and the orders. All right. Again, I've got customers that have orders that have products. I'm going to open up the customer table, and you're going to see on there a tab that says orders. And on that, you're going to see a tab that says products. It's embedded at the 3 levels. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you have something like this, this will work. I'm giving you the ability to do this because I've built it into the objects, all right? But I would recommend that you don't go past 3 levels ever, all right? I have done things in the past where I went 4 levels and people get really confused, all right? I've read this in several places that the typical human mind can only handle 3 levels down. You know, that's why most people never get past level 1 of chess, because they can't go past 3 levels of thinking. All right. So I've kind of mimicked that here. Okay. That I've got 3 here. I would not try to have another one in here that would go further on down. Okay. So here we go back to our typical multi-record form, but it's in this form for Elizabeth Anderson's order on that date. And it's in something for Elizabeth Anderson. So I could manage the whole thing right here. This is kind of cool, right? But when you watch my video, you're going to hear me say that there was an issue that we came across, and it just happened to happen when I was just before I started recording the video. So we hadn't resolved it completely. We knew how to fix part of it, but not the whole thing. The reason I'm showing you this now is because we have fixed this now. You can reuse this. As we've got this, if you wanted to mimic it in your PO3s, you could do things like this, all right? Because we have the capability built into the subject forms now and other things that you have, all right? But let me go back here and show you what I'm talking about. Let's say I put a new customer in here. You see here? We didn't catch this. In fact, it was Josh Maxton, I think, who found this, wasn't it, Aziz? That
yes,
we had a situation where they could actually enter orders when we didn't even have the customer defined yet. So we had to build this so that it would not allow anything to happen until that parent-child relationship was actually established in data. So now if I came in here and I said, okay, I'm going to pick a customer, now it'll let me go in. It turns out I picked one that already had stuff in there. Okay. But if I didn't, I would have had to enter information about the order and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, and that works. Okay. So we got that working at this level. And again, there's other really cool things in here you want to go out and explore. All right. But the other way to do it would be we have customers, orders, products. Instead of managing it from the perspective of the customer, the top level, we could jump into the middle. We could do it from orders, okay? So on that now, we're going to have something that's a little bit different. If I go into orders now, it'll look like it's the same type of thing. You'll see, but this is just from that second level down to products. So how do we handle relating it to a customer? We use a reference lookup for the customer and we put that in here. All right. It's not really a reference relationship, but it acts like one from this perspective. Okay. Now I know that probably doesn't mean a thing to you. Okay. I'm just telling you to trust me on this. If you built something where you're starting in the middle and you have to go back to a master, use that single pick underscore reference and the template I have in there for the foreign key object. And that will allow you to do this. Here's why I'm saying this, okay? Let's go on this to a new record. Okay. Until I have a customer, it has nothing to associate with. So, I gave no find order here. I could find an order and it'll take me to one that already exists, but I have to put something here. So I'm going to put Elizabeth Anderson, and now it's allowing me to have a new order for her. Okay. Now, one of the things I should have showed you on the other one too, I wonder if I could get back there. Well, no, I think we're good with this one. Anyway, I think you get the idea on this. Now, you might also see here, I got this thing that says ship now. That means, oh, I have to have a product in here. I'm sorry, I didn't pick a product. I got to get something in here. Okay, let's get some things to ship. See, it's got smarts in it. And it knows I just entered this order, so just put that in there as the value. And now I want to say ship now. I just click that button and it puts today's date and time, and then it's ready to go, right? It wasn't a required field though. Maybe I'm not ready to ship it, so I could have kept it null. So there's a little button here. It's got smarts on here to know. Go and stuff the time and date in that field, date and time in that field, and you're ready to go. Also, the form itself, as it moved, as we put a new one up here, it knew that as soon as I entered anything in here, timestamp this. So you got a lot of smarts going on in this form, but I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of it that's in the macros that are behind it. So you want to explore those macros if you want to mimic this. Now, I don't think a lot of you are going to have this kind of complexity in your projects. I do know one student that does though, because we talked about it already. And so I'm going to actually give them a little bit more of a tutorial because they're not on right now. That's a shame. Hopefully they'll watch the video and they'll figure this out. So, but if you do have this situation, that's how you would handle it. And it is something it happens to me a lot. Again, I'm not going to go through the rest of this. You could watch the video. It'll tell you about all the rest of it. And there's some good stuff in here. Explore it, okay? And if you have any questions, ask Aziz and myself. That's what we're here for. And even this stuff you'll learn how to do. So anyway, that's that, okay? So with that, the last thing I want to do is just go through the assignment for 7. Now, again, there are 3 videos. I am going to ask you to if you can get through the first one tonight, okay, 0701, it's about an hour long, okay? And then over the next few nights, or if you could swallow it all at once, please do, okay? Do L0702. It's over 2 hours long, all right? The first 25 minutes of it, though, I'm talking a lot about aesthetics and things that are on the screen and little things you could do to improve your applications. I really urge you to watch that, okay? And even at the end, then, I talk about other things you could do in reports that we didn't cover, or things you could do in reports that we have done that make them better, okay? Watch that part too. Excuse me, but it's mainly about the second part of its tutorial, T07-01B. I have to get something to drink. Hold on. Excuse me. I've had laryngitis all weekend. Today's the first day I'm actually able to talk pretty well. Anyway, these are now what these videos are about. Those first 2 videos are about making your application flow. It's about what we call automation of the application. And the way to do that is basically through macros. And macros are about the closest thing we see to programming all semester, okay? That and expressions, okay? But even in there, there's never that many commands, at least not in this class. In the old days, used to be a lot, but now it's gotten so sophisticated that you don't need to do a lot of macro commands. But there is still logic in there, and you have to be aware of that, okay? Watch them closely, okay? Next time we get together, I'm actually going to go step through one that the harder ones that I've already built for you, okay? But I know some of you may want to know how I did it. And it doesn't take long for me to explain it, but there are some tricks to it, okay, that I want to make sure you understand. But let's go through and see A07 now. And then the last one, the L07-03 is about compiling, which is what the next class will be about. But I kind of like you to watch that ahead of time too. All right. Because when I do it in class, I'm going to do it really fast, because next time I'm also going to go through all of the requirements for project P03, because after that, I'm not going to see you again, some of you, until after the projects are due. Okay. So you're going to have most of November to be able to work on it, and you will use that time. Okay. You will not procrastinate, because this is where this makes or breaks people, what they do on their on the final project. So I want to go in and I want to cover the assignment here really quick, and then we'll call it a class. So the assignment is going to be very, very much like the tutorials. In fact, it's actually on one thing a little bit easier, but it's basically the same stuff. If you go through the tutorials and work the tutorials, you will have no trouble on this assignment. So in this assignment, we're going to basically take that events database we've been working on all this time, give it a method for navigating it, make one of its forms a little bit smarter. I'm sorry, one of its reports, and then we're going to compile it. That's what the nature of this one is. So going through this, you're going to have this switchboard. It's called the switchboard object that you will customize. So bring it up in design view so you can see it. You will go in and create buttons basically that will open up the different subject forms that you have in this database, and buttons to open up the different reports. You'll also create a filter for one of the reports. And again, I'll show you this in the compiled version in a second. You'll also create what's called a splash screen, and I give you the object for that. You just go in here, and this is just something that pops up on the screen to say, I did this on this date, basically, okay? And it opens up automatically from the switchboard template that I give you, all right? So let me go out and run that for you so you can see what you're doing. So you will replicate this basically. It doesn't have to be the same colors. You can have buttons that look different or move them around, whatever you want, okay? But it has to do the functionality that's behind this, all right? You'll want this contact, and when you click on that, it opens up the contact form that we are used to seeing. Click on this one, it opens up that event form we're used to seeing. You click on this, it opens up a sponsor form, which was, I think, in the assignment we had. Okay, you'll click on this one, it opens up a report that's that has all my contacts and the summary of what I have for each of those contacts. And then all my contacts, this is a nice form, it's got all my contacts in it. If I page through it, you'll see each of the contact has a page here, at least one page. It has their stuff on it. And then I've got a deal on here where I could say, just show me Kate Beckinsale's, and I hit pick contact, and it comes up with just hers. Okay, it filters out all the other information and it's just hers. Okay, again, you're doing this in the tutorials. You get through that, you'll be able to do this, and then we'll compile the whole thing. All right. The one thing to let you know, though, okay, you'll see in the tutorial that when you do this, one of the conditions you want to test for is whether or not there's data for that person in there. And if there isn't, you got the no data macro. Put that in there anyway, the no data macro. But I can tell you for this particular one, that won't happen. Okay, you won't ever have one that has no data in it. All right, but put it in there anyway, okay, even though you won't have that situation. When you click on this, it opens up the little, what they call a splash screen, a dialog box that you are going make one of these. It's very simple. All you have, it's all artwork, believe me. And then there's this thing, and I'm going to show you next week how I did this. All right, this is in here already, so you're done. So the instructions basically just say everything I just said. Pretty straightforward. Here it is. Now this is gray. Okay, again, make it look however you want to. It doesn't. You don't have to make it look exactly like I did it, but it has to have all those features in it, basically, all that functionality. I tell you what to open on each of the buttons, basically, and what that pick contact button does. Keep in mind the name of it's pick contact. Okay, in the tutorial, it's pick customer. Don't just copy that one over and think it's going to work, because anywhere where it said customer, it really needs to say contact now. So, and that includes naming the this combo box that you're going to drop into it. Okay, you have to name that correctly. Okay, and then you'll make a runtime version. Again, next week we will talk about the runtime version, how to make a runtime version. And then on this one, you're going to turn in two files. You're going to turn in the ACCDB file before it's compiled. Okay, when you got everything working, and before you even go in and start doing what we would do in the T07-02, which is how to compile the tutorial. Before you do anything on that, okay, you'll have that ACCDB, and then you'll make a copy of it and turn that into a runtime version. You'll turn that in too. All right, and that'll be our last assignment. No, I'm sorry. There's one for for lesson 8 too that we'll be doing. Okay.